Welcome this Saturday 13th of July, I believe. So starring here is Charas and Damiana and Junus there. We've got his first kill today with a baby bird up in one of these trees up here. Anyway, how to inspire yourself, as much as anything else. If you're feeling sort of low, feeling depressed, well, the way to transform that is, I just got to look at this building. It's tired and looking unloved, but bought myself a small tub of polyfiller, fill in a few little dents in the walls, and round the door frame was never actually finished. So I'm using, to start it off, I'm using earth clay. So we'll let that dry, then we'll smooth it off, fill in any dips, and then add the polyfiller. And I'm thinking more sort of primrose colour for the outside. There's a few sort of cracks and bits, and where it joins to the kitchen, that's going to need more earth clay, which we have an abundance of. So that is no problem. So a little bit of tidying up and transform this building. And I'd like to get the kitchen all with a cement rendering and painted and all looking fairly neat. I have a vision for this entire entrance to make it almost look like it's coming to a very successful garden centre. So there'll be plenty of colour and bloom, picking the right plants that like the full sun and such like. Yeah, so there's like some cracked bits up here that'll be filled in, then a nice coat of paint. Maybe do a contrasting edging colour, maybe in a green like the door, just to finish it off. The other point of this video, what I forgot to mention on the last one. Now you only need to look at the animal kingdom in this reality. You've got very similar animals, or similar by human classification. So for example, a horse and a donkey. But mating they can't naturally do, and the offspring that they do produce can then not go on to reproduce. They're called mules. It's not the only case. There's I believe a liger, a cross between a lion and a tiger, but again the same problem. So think about the stories of mythology and biblical mythology about these fallen angels basically mating with women. So what does that tell you? Therefore, they must be not just looking similar, but just another human with advanced technology. Yeah, so this building, where the roof had been raised as well, that's another job, and fill in the sides so the wind doesn't howl through there. So sorry, it's a little bit all over the place, but yeah, this is the thing. You just look to nature. You want answers. If you can't find them inside yourself, look at what is being reflected by nature. That will give you a huge clue. As you can see, it's a beautiful, beautiful day here in the Algarve, and slightly cooler than yesterday, which is not unwelcome. It's easier to actually make progress. But this is quite a little therapeutic job. There's another bit I've just spotted here on this post that needs to be filled in. That was, I sort of ran out of cement for that, but I should do a bit of earth clay and then go over it maybe with that polyfiller, and then a coat of paint. May even do that in like a striped sort of dark blue and white, because it is a sort of pillar. Oh, and the other thing is, little things excite me. I wanted to get some more lighting, so we have, shall we say, our first community street light. It's solar motion sensor light, so there's no batteries. It sits in the right position. It'll get full afternoon sun. And then I tried it last night. You sort of come near it, and it just lights up temporarily. Gives a bit of lighting if walking about is needed after dark. It'll probably score more as we get into the winter months, obviously, when we lose daylight about 5 o'clock at the depths of winter here, and between 9 and 10 you sort of lose the daylight at this time of year. Give you an idea as well, the summer solstice, the sun disappears roughly in line with this olive tree, but come winter time it moves all the way back, so it disappears sort of down that sort of gap between these two hills. It goes down that sort of V. So that's the only thing, which is a shame, but it's not something that I don't actually see if I make an effort and go up to the top of the hill, especially in the summer. About 6 o'clock in the morning, I could see the sunrise. If I walked up there, I still wouldn't see the sunset. Although it doesn't look it from here, there is another even taller hill behind that one. So that's one little thing I don't get to see. Just while we're here, just to finish this off, we've got a mixture of carrots, tomatoes and a few onions at the back. But this is not the best soil, but there's all the tomato plants and a bit of kale as well. The vision here is to make raised beds with a similar stonework edging along this side to sort of come down as far as this tree, and maybe even an archway eventually, a stone arch going across the top. Make it look loved and far more welcoming than it does at the moment, but it takes time, and when it's too hot, it's not worth killing yourself over trying to get these done. There's no time limits, but slow, steady progress wins the day, I feel. And it's taking active steps to what you wish to create from what you've visioned. So you then basically surrender yourself over to your higher self, like I've done with the community shelter seating area and the fireplace. You vision the end result and you just let it come as mind pictures. So that's exactly what I've done here, and then your physical body is the part in the physical reality that takes the active steps. So just a sort of little update there, and show you the sort of before the progress really, as sort of initial steps of tidying up the buildings. How long it'll take, I have no idea. It will depend on resources. Obviously cement and paint costs money. I'm going to need paint brushes as well. So I'll get a little bit each week. And just one tub of polyfiller was enough to actually inspire me to, and it's got me excited and really looking forward to seeing a finished product, so I can then present it on video and say, I did all this, that sense of achievement about it all. So may you have a beautiful day. I know some areas of the world are not doing so favourably with the weather. I know from what's been said about Texas that the internet is out, and Jason of Archaic showed the long queues for getting gasoline for vehicles. So that's just one day. So I'm not saying be a prepper, but have a backup. If you've got a vehicle, then make sure you've got an adequate stock of fuel, so you don't get caught in the queues because you've got no sort of backup plan. Oh, I need fuel for the car, otherwise I can't get to work the next day. Well, don't leave it to the last minute is the answer with that. A bit of forethought, a bit of ensuring that you've got, I don't know, maybe a week's worth of food and adequate supplies for a week at least. Just so you don't get tied up, because how can moving a car up every 20 minutes, about one car length or so, what do you do for the intermediate 20 minutes? Do you leave the engine running, or do you switch it off and then have to switch it back on again? Hardly efficient use of the fuel that you have got. And of course, it may be by the time you actually get to the pumps at the fuel station that they've actually run out. To give you an idea of how big the tanks are, certainly for the UK, these petrol stations come as a kit, and it's basically the size of a articulated tanker, or slightly larger. So we're saying about 40-45 meters, roughly sort of 45 foot by about 9 foot by about 9 foot, but obviously tubular shaped, and then they're sunk in the ground, strapped down and encased in concrete. But that gives you an idea of how much fuel these tanks have in them. And of course, if it's a fuel station that's selling petrol or gasoline, if you prefer, or diesel, or LPG gas, the tanks will obviously be compartmentalized, so it'll only be a section of that tank with that particular type of fuel. So another thing to keep in mind with all these things, and of course, this day and age, if the power goes down, that's all your credit card machines will not function, so all your debit cards, credit cards become useless. Most of the cash registers are electronic, so I don't know how companies actually get round that, whether they go back to the old traditional methods of writing it down on paper and then putting it in when they have got their computer systems up and running. But of course it's supply of electricity, unless you have a backup with solar or a generator or something. All things I feel that are worth considering. It's better to be forewarned is to be forearmed. It's not something new that you get hurricanes, tornadoes and such like freak weather conditions, more accentuated versions of existing weather, because basically what is a tornado? It's just really just a very exceptionally strong wind, which you don't normally get. But it's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun, so surely it would be something to at least have some backup plan or some preparation, so you're not caught in the crossfire, in the panic, which most people by the looks of it seem to do. And then just one day you've only got to look back to the situation with the great toilet roll scarcity situation. That was actually a very good indicator of the mindset of some, how self-serving and greedy they are, how some will exploit a situation for selfish ends by inflating prices of toilet rolls and then putting them on the likes of eBay and selling them at exorbitant prices, cashing in on somebody else's misfortune. It's hardly the sort of world that I like to see, and here it's not in my world. So there's another big thing: environment. If you're not happy in your situation, change it. My environment here, I'm not happy with the look of the buildings. I feel they need a little bit of tender loving care, just to bring them, make them look a little bit more presentable, a little bit more loved. So I have an idyllic setting in nature, but the man-made part needs to complement that. So that is going to be an ongoing project for the rest of this year, along with all the other bits and pieces. So never going to get bored, am I? So I wish you all a beautiful day. Ended up a bit longer than I intended, but I feel there's a few things in here to really consider and apply to your own life. And also weigh up that whole thing about fallen angels and the mating capability. What's that tell you about what they really are? So as always, unconditional love to you all.